Hello everyone, and welcome to the World Pokemon Federation, Season 17. I thought it was Season 15 when I was guessing what season it was, but no, it is Season 17, Pokemon Regice Power Rankings, with your host, Mancini the Amazing, and of course, the eternal, the effervescent, the elusive Etesian. Please say hello to the people.
Hello, you're really gonna have to pick one between elusive and eternal.
Well, the joke was that... sorry.
Alliteration, I understand.
No, sorry. Different elusives. I was using the elusive with an I. I just realized there's also an elusive with an E. It was meant to be, the joke was that I was saying words that sounded like they started with E to match with Etesian, but then elusive doesn't. But you're right, that there's also an elusive with an E. So, one of the many things we Regice this season is UBERS, even though UBERS was traditionally Rock. Big World Pokemon Federation admin, is that the role? I don't remember what the role is. Commissioner Etesian decided, you know what, this time, after centuries of UBERS being Rock Div, why did you decide that Ice Div would be UBERS?
I didn't. I'm just a mod. That decision was made when they added the 4th division, and I'm not sure why this is UBERS. I'm not sure why low tier stopped being Steel, but it is what it is.
I mean, I think low tier being Gigas is funny because, you know, it's the only Reggie that's consistently legal. Not even that consistently, because I think it's illegal last season, but I think it might be legal again this season. Either way, power rankings. So, we've looked at all of the teams. We both made a list, and then we averaged the scores out to each other. A lot of the things on this list we had quite a bit of a divide on. So, most of the like average positions wound up clumped pretty around the middle. The first couple, however, did not end up pretty clumped around the middle, and we'll see whose teams that is. So, number 16, Star Maiden, the Pennsylvanian Primarina. It doesn't even fit inside the text box. Truly a very powerful team name. But is the team exactly as powerful? You see here, this team is built around Mewtwo, except not really. This team may not necessarily be built around a whole lot. However, it does feature a cavalcade of consistently strong Pokemon, either very premium offensive mons or very premium defensive mons. And also, for some reason, there's a Thwackey and Sneasler, with the idea, I think, being that Thwackey will give you grassy terrain to set Sneasler up. But then you're bringing Thwackey on the same team that you're bringing Sneasler, on a team whose flying resist is Regieleki.
You also bring out Thwackey on a Lando team where you then have to step down to Stomping Tantrum because the thing doesn't get horsepower.
Yes. I mean, I've had to run Earth Power on Landos for matchups that are not because of grassy terrain. But, you know, it does also stunt Lando. And let's be honest, I think that the thing is that this team has a lot of Pokemon that work well in different game speeds, in terms of there's Pokemon that are really good in this like fast offensive game plan. You've got your Sneasler there, you've got, you know, to some extent Thwackey is really good for 2, not necessarily an amazing Pokemon, but a good one. You know, Hisway and Samurot's there, Regieleki is there. And you know, Regieleki is actually like a nice rapid spin addition to this team, because this team has rockers who don't necessarily have the ability to set rocks a million times a game. Lando's definitely not a terrible rock setter, Blissey's not a terrible rock setter, but they're both Pokemon that can be pressured when they're trying to set rocks. And, you know, Samurott is obviously depending on not dying to keep setting spikes. So having rapid spin is nice there. But that means you're running Regieleki on this team. I think there's generally just a core tension between how slow and bulky and tanky the fat mode on this team is, and how offensive and more on the, like, somewhat bulky, but not, you know, like Giratina is bulky. Mewtwo is not Giratina bulky, it's just, I am an Uber, so I have 600 base stat total, or maybe 620? I have big numbers. Bulky.
We don't need to worry about the exact number. As you're talking about different game speeds, I can get the idea in that you use Alomomola and Blissey as really big, fat, slow wishers with momentum into the big guns.
Yeah, man,
But the
I
payoff
love
is what I find lacking here.
I love wishing into my Giratina for 40% with a lower molar.
It's
Obviously with
more
Blissey
about
it does more than that, but yeah.
it's more about the Lando and not really, I guess, the Mewtwo. You're going slowly, so you can't afford to just tag into it. But the thing is that the payoff really is the problem here, because there isn't a lot of setup going on here, like Sneasler SD, I guess, but the
Nasty Block
breaking power
Mewtwo,
is...
Sword Stance Lando, it's like the week 1 we saw them use weakness policy Giratina. I think that's
Yeah,
likely to
that
be a
is...
staple of this team.
Yeah, that is pretty cool, and Mewtwo has setup as well, but Mewtwo also kind of needs to be the breaker on this team. You've
Yeah,
got
well,
Lando, you got Mewtwo, and
I
the
think
offense after that kind of falls off.
part of the reason that you want to run so much weakness policy Giratina is that this team has no Fairy Resist. This team has no Freeze Dry Resist. This team has, I believe, has Mimikyu as its only Dragon Resist. And I think that
Yeah,
that
not
is
having
a significant
field type is-
impediment to this team's broader potential for success. Especially in a
Yeah,
format where Pursuit is legal, I do also think that that is an aggravating factor. Mewtwo is a Pokemon that has the capability of really significant offense, but there are positions where you can sort of pin it and mitigate its ability to contribute effectively to an overall team, and I'm not sure that this team has what it needs to enable Mewtwo to be a consistently strong and offensive guy, but still a strong Pokemon. This team is still an UBERS team, right?
Yeah, it definitely still makes the cut, and I do like the idea of Hammerot stacking spikes, and then you have the big slow mons that can safely pivot into whatever. It's just going to be a question of whether they can weather the storm of so many big offensive Ubers being around and being able to crack Blissey Alamomola eventually.
Yeah, I do think that there is a genuine concern that opposing Pokemon may be able to sub on a Lomomola or Blissey because they are Ubers. Blissey is not generally good at breaking subs in Ubers. Seismic Toss does not work against a number of them. And then after a sub and like a Dragon Dance, not being able to weather the storm, for sure. I think that the problem is there's not like there isn't even an Infiltrator mon, I don't believe. It's possible that like Sneasler gets Infiltrator or something. I don't think so though. I think it's Keen-Eye, Poison,
It's Poison Touch and Burden, and I'm not even sure if it has
Keen-Eye.
third ability.
Pretty sure
it
it's
does, then
Keen-Eye.
it's yes.
So I think that's a concern. I think even like a Crobat or something, like something that can reliably toxic through a sub, would provide a significant improvement to this team. Like I cannot imagine this team with its Thwacky like consistently beating, say, a Zygarde complete. I think that's really the problem, is that as many interesting and nice pieces as this team has, I think that there are significant prep flaws that a lot of opposing teams may be able to exploit.
To add on to the issue of subs and the lack of Infiltrator, what is the phasing on this team? I think Giratina gets something, and
It's Raw Landorus,
that it?
Raw Giratina, and I think... No, I don't think Thwacky gets Roar. I think Rillaboom might. They should give Regieleki
Great
Whirlwind.
background there.
You will simply lose to the soundproof phaser. Yeah, I think this team, like, it has two good clerics, but neither of them really want to be clicking cleric moves because, for one thing, there are two rockers, Landorus and Blissey, and then Blissey is going to be wanting to run rocks, or Landorus is going to be running rocks. And both of them just have so many important move slots. It's like, can you really fit Heal Bell on Blissey on this team consistently? I think Alomomola may also get Heal Bell. I'm not 100 on that. I don't remember Nat decks that well.
I think they can fit enough cleric moves because, as you said, they don't really do damage, and all the higher HP means that Blissey Seismic Toss isn't worthless, but it's a lot worse, so you could possibly fit that as well.
I think it is a challenge. I think that Giratina, Landorus, and to some extent Mewtwo are all Pokemon that are pretty consistently checked by status, including by Giratina by its own rest. And often you would employ in UBERS clerics to make it so that Giratina can rest and then get heal build up. But I think that is difficult to consistently employ in this team, even as nice as having Blissey on this team is. That's it. I think maybe we have spent too long discussing this team.
Agreed.
Next team, Thunderbug, Tarnished Whooper. To be honest, this team, between like our average things, had tied with another team for this point, and I put it here because I don't really like the logo. That is the entire reason this team is 15th instead of 14th. But I think in my personal rankings, I ranked Thunderbug over the team in 14th, but it was mostly just because I didn't want to rank two people together, and you actually literally ranked them together, I think.
Yeah, they were so close I couldn't really find any logic to split them apart, unlike you with the logo.
Yeah. Truly, what a team. Geomancy's banned. I think if Geomancy wasn't banned, this would probably be a mildly higher ranked team. However, even if Geomancy was banned, it would still be very difficult for this team to try and consistently get in Xerneas with its U-Turn, Mega Sizzle, Volt Switch Belly Bolt, U-Turn Manaphy, and Teleport Deoxys Speed as its ways to try and get... Sorry, does Darkrai get U-Turn?
It does not get U-Turn.
Okay, I didn't think so, but I just wanted to make 10 million % sure. And they also have a Doug, which is really difficult to get in on this team. Doug is theoretically good with Xerneas. Now, you might say it's good because it traps Steel and Poisons. No, it's good because it makes your opponent run Shed Shell instead of a good item. Half the time, look, as someone who is an experienced UBERS Doug Trio user, half the time you don't really need... you don't really need to bring the Doug. Or when you do bring the Doug, you wind up trapping like your opponent's Blissey for the previous team, or Clefable or something, rather than their like main defense to your Xerneas or Marshadow or whoever. Because they've done enough work gimping their main check to your Xerneas already by running Shed Shell.
Yeah, pretty
or
much.
Sugar Berry.
Yeah, pretty much. And another reason to not be that afraid of Doug Trio in UBERS is, again, the bulk level is generally higher, and I don't even think Doug Trio does enough damage in Standard, never mind here.
I don't know, that might be true. I haven't enjoyed Doug Trio as much this generation. I used it to great effect in Generation 7 and early in Gen 8. I can't speak to it, how it is in current generation as much. I didn't like it last time I drafted it, but that, I think, was part of an overall team issue. Yeah, I think this
it was
team
okay when you
also only has 2 Rockets, Deoxys and Doug, and I think that is really bad. I don't know why they spent 6 points on Ordino, which doesn't really fit this team. This team, like, yeah, most of the Pokemon Ordino would be wishing to don't really get that much health from Ordino's Wish because it's an Ordino, and it doesn't have rocks, and I think a normal with rocks would have helped.
That, and while this team doesn't have a ton of recovery, it has enough to where I don't really see the need for Audino here. But as you said, this team only has Deoxys and Doug Trio as Arcers, which is already inconvenient on its own, but with that, and with my personal doubts about Doug Trio, I think the most common thing this thing is going to be doing is sash rocks into Memento into hope you can set up with something.
Surely Final Gambit.
Well, with Doug Trio's, like, what, 35 base HP? You're not doing anything with that.
Yeah, it's to break the opposing sash.
And run double drop Giratina if you're that concerned.
But yeah. Funny homie, funny guy, Mega Sizzler. I don't know if it's great in this current format. I don't feel like it's great on this team, which doesn't really have a good fire matchup. Because Sun is pretty premium in the current gen with all of the funny Sun guys. So that means like Manaphy is gimped in its consistency into opposing fire types. And like even before this gen, you know, I've hit Manaphy with the Darmanitan Flare Blitz. Manaphy is not like a consistent check to fire types. I've also hit Giratina with the fire. It's a more consistent check, but you know, it's not it's not like a Heatran or something, you know. This team has 2 Pokemon that are premium Pokemon, Mega Scizor and Xerneas, and both of them share a common weakness, and their answer to the common weakness is sacking a Pokemon and then going into Doug and hoping that your opponent's running like you're hoping that your fire type is, you know, not really doing much of anything, right? And I feel like there's just a lot of ways in which that's not super consistent, for one thing. Because we're in this Nat Dex format where Pursuit is allowed, I think Doug is actually a worse overall Pokemon than in formats where Pursuit is not legal. Because Doug is a Pokemon that's frail enough that getting Pursuited means it's not trapping a second Pokemon. And this is on a team that has a number of Pokemon that Doug is fine switching out into, like your Giratina, or your Mega Scizor, or your Manaphy. Or even to some extent Okidogi. Okidogi doesn't get T-Spikes, right? This team is literally only Deoxys and Doug for hazards, which means it's often really going to be Deoxys only setting hazards, and thus being less consistent of a problem.
That's right. It's only Deoxys and Dugtrio that get hazards. Okidogi doesn't get any, I believe.
But don't worry,
But
they have
as-
premium defog. Top 3 Pokemon all have defog.
Yeah, but you don't really want to run it on those. Like, you can.
I will say, Xerneas is actually a reasonably good defogger because Specs is such a consistent set, and you don't really have a fourth move to run in a number of matchups. But you want to click defog or do you want to click Moonblast? I've clicked defog with Xerneas before and felt good about it.
And I guess also just to be clear, we have 2 Sun teams in the division. I didn't check the schedules for any of these. I don't know if Thunderbug faces any of them. But
We also had
slightly
I think 1 or 2 teams that look like they would easily flex Manual Sun.
possibly some prototypes this monster got drafted. But I don't think... okay, I kind of agree with you, and that Sun can be an issue, but Manaphy and Giratina do take fire hits well. The issue is that their health is at a premium. They really don't regenerate that all that easily, unless you're really gonna bring an Odino specifically for those 2.
Yeah, I mean, Giratina has 150 base HP, so Ordino's not really wishing effectively to Giratina.
Yeah, and Manaphy being 100 while Odino is 106 base HP, I believe, also isn't a huge payoff.
Is it 106? Am I remembering it wrong? I thought it was in the 80s.
Nah, the bulk stats are 80, but HP is 106.
I have not... I don't think Manaphy is in the current game, so I have not... Sorry, Manaphy. I don't think Ordino is in the current game. It is 103 base HP, 86 in its defenses. Okay. Yeah, I thought it was 86
okay.
HP. I just have not seen it in a generation. I mean, that makes Ordinose less terrible. It's still not giving Giratina big wishes, and it's still giving Manaphy, like, okay, I'm switching out of my Ordino into Manaphy in front of the Fire type so that my Ordino can make my Manaphy heal 54 while they take, like, 46 from the Fire type. I don't know. I think that this team lets Pokemon in that it can't answer super consistently too frequently. And I think that Fire is the most concerning type for that because, I mean, it's a Mega Sizzle Xerneas team. But I think maybe to some extent this team may be reliant on like Darkrai cleans, which is annoying because Darkrai is also one of this team's premium breakers. I think mostly this is because the Deoxys is basically like set to hazard duty. This team would really love having a second consistent spiker so that Deoxys could abuse spikes. But now the Deoxys has to set and also abuse the same spikes. And that means it won't be doing one of those things.
Speaking of weaknesses of this team, Fairy is also quite bad in that it's just the Mega Scizor.
It is in fact just the Sizzle, and we're back in that deck, so a bunch of the fairies have Mystical Fire back.
Yeah, there's no Hidden Power or Terra Blast because Terra is banned entirely.
Terra Blast
But
is legal.
there is... Come again?
Terra Blast is legal, it's just not a fire move.
You know what I mean.
Well, it was important for the previous thing where Regieleki was on their team, and that's like its best coverage move.
I hate that I can't disagree.
I hate Regieleki.
Fair.
Yeah, this team has fundamental flaws. Xerneas has also, like, one of their 2 dragon resists. So, like, are you going to be wanting to switch Xerneas into their dragon type? Because Sizzle's just always going to catch a fire move and then take, like, I don't know, like 40%, depending on what fire type. I mean, look at this team into, like, a Reshiram. They have to dug the Reshiram with Scarf Dug.
Yeah, pretty much. I think the last thing to note before we move on from this one is that... Wait, we already talked about momentum, didn't we?
Yes. Deoxys Speed Teleport after you spike, and then also Psycho Boost.
Yeah, I think we're done here. We harped on a little too much about the cheapest mon on this team, but we covered all the bases.
The cheapest mon on this team is Bellibolt.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a 5. Man, we really overpriced that Odino.
Yeah. I mean, that's really why I don't... This could have been 2 Pokemon. Anyway, on to the next team. Regulus Corneus and the Mystery Priors. I don't know I don't know what. Oh. I don't know why there's a Hisuian Sorowak on a generic crumbling city background with the name Mystery Priors. Wasn't Priors like a Ice-type gym leader? No, that was Price. I don't know what that word means.
Fun fact, this person is the only one who submitted their logo in WebP rather than JPEG or anything like that. And for some reason, Google Sheets, with the option to insert images, still doesn't allow WebP. I had to put this
I know
into
why that
MS
is.
Paint and then take a screenshot.
I know why that is. It's because WebP specifically was made to spite Google. For ages, you used to not be able to find WebPs in Google Images.
Huh.
And then Google Images broke it, but they still haven't done that with Google Slides.
I think this officially counts as edutainment.
I think it always counted as edutainment. I'm educating you about Pokemon. Isn't that like the most important thing for grown adults to have a regulated understanding of? Like singles, nat decks, like the most fan-made format possible.
That's pretty important. So is having ground type checks.
I don't agree. I look, are you telling me that simply if this team ran into a Zygarde 15, they would cry? Because while that's true, I resent that you think it's okay to say that.
I don't generally like thinking about specifically Zygarde because usually it's one, maybe two mons that never get drafted. Even now in the division, it's just Zygarde complete and not the other two.
I mean,
But
complete's kind of good.
even ignoring Zygarde, you got
It's
Rotom
also
Wash
every
here.
mold breaker Pokemon, because that's a Rotom, not a flying type.
Yeah, that's fine too, but you got Rotom Wash that's generally a fine ground check, and then you have 4 or 5 ground weaknesses here. And nothing else.
Maybe I am a tiny bit of a hater. I think that Rotomosh is not always a super consistent ground type check. But I think Rotomosh is a significant check of a range of things on this team already. I mean, the other thing is, like, if the Mewtwo hasn't Mega'd, the rock resists are just Ferrothorn Duraludon, which obviously shared the fighting weakness, but also there's the significant fire weakness there. Oh, and Nidoking. I guess maybe I'm missing the Nidoking. But I feel like just Edgequake is difficult for this team.
Edgequake is generally kind of difficult for everyone. Like, they have some fine generic bulk, like the Ferrothorn over there, but... Yeah, this is like... It's a Sun team where I don't really see the Sun vector. Like, you're boosting Reshiram Stab, you're giving Roaring Moon Photosynthesis, and that's it.
They have a Reshiram, so...
Yeah, I said that, you're boosting its stab, and that's solid. You got that and the moon, and they really could have leaned into it harder if they wanted to go that route, but instead they would have just cut the Ninetales entirely.
What you do is you run Choice Band Reshiram, right? And then you click Flare Blitz in Sun.
Maybe. I've preferred Flame Charge in the past. Though it now gets Skill Shot, I think. Either way...
I don't think you normally run Flame Charge on physical sets.
Either way, it's draft. You can customize it however you want, but I know we're gonna talk about this team's kind of awkward speed later, but I definitely could see dropping the Ninetales for the Torkoal, if nothing else, because this team's hazard setting and removal isn't really the best. I don't really know what
the hazard setting is good.
Well, you got Ferrothorn and Nidoking, and that's fine.
Both of those are... Like, I'm in another league where I have Ferrothorn, Nidoking, and another Rocker. And I found that to be a perfectly consistent hazard setting option. Ferrothorn is a Pokemon that is less diverse in set options than Deoxys Speed, so it running spikes every game is less of a problem. However, why don't we take a little brief look at their hazard removal on a team that like has Ferrothorn spikes? Do you think that they might have considered drafting like a premium Rapid Spinner? Or do they have, I think, 2 defocus?
For some reason, almost no one got Rapid Spinners, but this is the most obvious chance where someone could have, where you just dropped an Ninetales for a Torkoal.
Yeah. I don't know how much more Torkoal costs. Presumably more, but I don't know.
You don't need the Duraludon, you don't need the Wobbuffet. You can make money somewhere.
Oh, Wobbuffet's broken, brah. I mean, if an opponent runs Shed Shell once because you have a Wobbuffet, then that means that you've won. Normally, the Wobbuffet just encores you into Toxic, so that they can set up a spike with Ferrothorn though, because or with Nidoking, right? But because both of their hazard setters are poison immune. But And Duraludon, I think, also has rocks. I don't know that for sure, though.
It does. I've checked. Ninetales is 4 points, Torkoal is 6.
They would have to drop John Duraludon, just as you were saying that they don't rock consistently enough. Heartbreaking.
No, you can keep the Duraludon and drop the Wobbuffet then. Perfectly fine.
Heartbreaking. No, they would be getting Torkoal as a rocker. That was the joke.
No, yeah.
Yeah. And they would have Rapid Spin. I don't know if I'd love the idea of Torkoal and Ferrothorn on the same team. I think the most important thing for this team to pick up is a flying type. I think that I agree with what you say about Zygarde is not like consistently the only ever problem Pokemon ever. The reason that this team, I think it's particularly bad at its ground weakness is because it is particularly weak to ground, and also Rotom Wash only uses Levitate to be immune to ground, so Mold Breaker is a consistent problem.
That and it's a simple numbers game. You got 1 check to ground, you got 4 weaknesses.
I don't even think that it has to be like you need to have as many as you have weaknesses. I think it is, if you have 4 weaknesses, you should probably have 2 premium checks instead of 1 premium check.
Yeah, no, it doesn't have to be the same
If you're planning on running a team of 6 Pokemon, and 4 of them have to always switch out from a specific category of Pokemon, maybe have 2 Pokemon that can switch in.
Yeah, no, I don't think it has to be the same number, but it has to be at least ballpark close. And
I just think,
absolutely is.
as a rule, when you're talking about a premium UBERS type like ground, having 2 Pokemon to check every premium UBERS type is good. Teams that have only like 1 ground check, 1 fairy check, 1 dragon check, 1 flying check are teams that I determined to rank lower than other teams. Because I think that not immediately losing turn 1 to lead Yveltal is good, actually. Or a Banded Rayquaza. Yeah, I also think this team's speed is kind of awkward.
Yeah, you've got yourself your Mega Mewtwo, you've got the Roaring Moon, which may or may not go for photosynthesis speed, and then it's the Ninetales and Reshiram, and that's it.
Yeah, and Ninetales and Reshiram have, well, I'd say they don't have identical threat profile, right? But Ninetales has a threat profile which is functionally identical to Reshiram's. It's just, when I say functionally identical, I mean things that check Reshiram will also check Ninetales. Not that it is scary as Reshiram is.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't remember whether Reshiram gets Solar Beam, but otherwise it's pretty similar, yeah.
I believe it does. Even if it doesn't, I cannot remember the last time a Ninetales hit me with a Solar Beam, and I was like, man, I'm sure glad this. I'm so much more scared of this than I would be of a Reshiram.
No, yeah, exactly.
Like,
really, I think the Ninetales is gonna try to set Sun and then maybe Healing Wish into one of the big threats late. But just get a Torkoal.
yeah, I mean, look, I don't know if Torkoal's necessary. Get a flying type, please.
Yeah,
Or
that'd be
don't.
pretty cool too.
I think I probably have drafted a ground type. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what my ground type is, which isn't a great sign. It's probably like, well, I mean, we're gonna see it soon, so I probably should hold my tongue on that. Is the next team mine? No, I think it's another one. Yeah, I think it's
You're
another
2
one.
from now.
Oh, that's right. This is the team you forgot to rank next. Are we done here? Some people think the Mega Mewtwo X is absurdly broken. I think it's just like a good top-rate Uber. I don't think it is like top 5 or something of the Pokemon legal here, so that hasn't pushed it up as it has for some others.
It's very solid, but I don't think it's any sort of broken.
Alright. On to Asex Disco Stew and the Hitmon Highlanders. This team's name is so long that despite somehow fitting into this logo better than the previous team's name did, I did have to move the box to the side slightly, so my apologies for anyone who noticed that. I don't really know why. I mean, the logo is very funny. I feel like I don't know. It's okay. You know what? It's fine.
Deep breaths.
I'm pretty sure that's like the old Scottish flag, and then it's like the Gaelic cross. I don't get it. Speaking of the big flying type Pokemon, this team is a big flying type Pokemon. Do you want to guess? I actually don't know why this team was so low. I'd have to remind myself. Oh yes, no, I remember why this team is low. Regirock is its only stealth rock. No, Necrozma is also a stealth rocker. I don't think that's great.
If you want to talk about glaring weaknesses, the one that sticks out to me immediately is what clicks momentum here. You got the Galvantula Volt Switch.
They have the best teleport Pokemon in the history of competitive Pokemon.
Does Solgaleo click that?
I mean, UBERS, I don't know if it does as much in draft. It did when I had it, and I was playing VGC, but I mean, it does in normal UBERS.
I had Solgaleo once this gen, and not once did I even think about teleporting.
I don't know.
But you got that, you got Golf Volt Switch, and U-Turn Volcarona? Is that it?
I think so. Who needs momentum? Just win. It's that easy, right? That's how the game works.
You do need some way to safely get into your Stealth Rock Weak Mega here.
You see that. The answer is lead it and win. You're telling me that
Sure,
isn't a consistent answer? I think that's a
easy.
consistent answer. I think last time I saw a Mega Salamence in a draft, I remember it getting Scarf Ice Beamed like 6 games in a row. I may or may not have had the Mega Salamence. I think I lived one of the Ice Beams.
Possible. It has some bulk. Some decent bulk.
It does. I'm pretty sure I won that game. Most of the time, the Scarfer has to be faster than base 120, which limits the amount of special attack that they have, because Salamence is pretty fast.
Yeah, and to their credit, I paid some attention to the priority options everyone has, and I think you only saw a single Ice Shard Pokemon.
I don't think Ice Shot is great into Salamence. It's got so much Fizz Def. Unless it's on
Same,
like
but it's
Mamoswine
not
or a
Pokemon.
Qianpao, which I know both of those Pokemon were drafted.
Sorry, Qianpao and?
Mamoswine? Wasn't Mamoswine drafted? I know Weavile wasn't.
No, it's just Qianpao and Donphan.
I don't think Donphan counts. I remember seeing a banded Donphan try to Ice Shot my Salamence and it didn't work. I mean,
Not
it
saying
did
it's a
work
great
because I
option, it just
lost a bunch of
helps.
health to Double Edge, but like, I lost the health to Double Edge by killing the Donphan. Normally the Donphan's okay because it's got Sturdy and you can rock Boots, but I was playing Gen 6.
Yeah, fair enough. Anyway,
Yeah, Solgaleo is kind of cool. Yeah, I just feel like I don't ever want to click Stealth Rock with Necrozma, but I also don't really want to run Regirock every single game to click Stealth Rock. So that means I don't have Stealth Rock, which means that... what does my Salamence do? I don't know. And also, you've got like a pretty good set of knockoff Pokemon. Feeny, Muk, Solgaleo, I believe, all have Knock. I know Necrozma does also have Knock. And then you can't really abuse it because you don't have great assets.
they do have the Chestnut for whatever that's worth, and
Yeah,
kind
that
of web.
spikes. I don't think Chestnut's like a bad Pokemon. Chestnut is that Pokemon. It's that Edgequake check that we were looking for.
Chestnut is fine, it's just the issue of how many birds and psychics and flyings you have among Ubers.
Yeah, I mean, this team, you know, if we look at its flying resists, they are Solgaleo and Regirock, which, you know, have a shared weakness, but that weakness isn't necessarily the most common coverage move for a lot of flying types. And then beyond that, you know, like Solgaleo is weak to fire and Regirock is not. Solgaleo is weak to ghost and, sorry, Regirock is, and then, like, you know, they otherwise have reasonable crossover. I think this team's water matchup is maybe a bit weird. Also, I think Feeney's its only removal, or the Volcarona and Salamence may also have defog. I know Lunala does, but
Exactly
Onix
those
doesn't.
three.
What's
It's
that?
exactly those three. So this
Yeah.
team is leaning on Finny pretty heavily because, as you said, water's kind of weird, and sure, Finny terrain is going to protect Chestnut from any burns, but it's not going to help the Salamence. So skulls are very much an issue.
It's also a problem for the dragon moves not being able to mitigate the damage into your dragon type. But you know, I mean, like it's not like genuinely a problem because you have a Tapu Fini. But you know, it is a like mild downside. I will
unless
simply
Salamence-
scarf my Noiva.
I don't remember whether Salamence got scale shot. No, I think, yeah, it does get scale shot, but other than that, I feel like Mega Salamence is fine enough just by clicking Flying Stab and ground moves. So Dragon helps, but it's not key. It's one of the better dragons you can get on Finny.
You can get revenge by dragon type moves, which normally, like a Tapu Fini would say, a Zygarde complete means that like Zygarde goes from having 3 weaknesses to 2. And it doesn't affect the Salamence's matchup profile.
Yeah, but you need a dragon that's faster than Salamence or able to take a Salamence hit, which I
Both
don't
of
think
those
there's a lot
can
of
be
those.
achieved. Faster than Salamence is not super uncommon.
Dragon specifically?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably not
There's a
like a very
Carnival.
large number of it, but I know that I've definitely run into Mega Salamence and had a faster Scarf Dragon. I think
I'll take your
twice.
word for it, but I'm not thinking of so many that it's really a
Well,
big issue.
Leuven and
on Steam.
Naganadel were the two that I had. You can also just click Icy Wind, and then it doesn't get +1 speed.
Yeah, well, the team's ice checks are fine. You get Infinity and your Solgaleo.
Oh no, you normally have to click Icy Wind with a Pokemon that doesn't really have any other ice moves, because then they actually try and set up in front of you.
Yeah, I know. That used to. Yeah, I keep thinking that Bronzong gets Icy Wind. I can never remember whether it actually does, but I got Spinner this gen so I can finally be free of that curse.
Yeah, man, Ice Spinner straight into that Volcarona Flame body.
Well, okay.
I think this team is only low
worth-
because I ranked other teams above it, and you didn't rank this team. I mean, like, it's got flaws. It doesn't feel like this is a... Like, this feels like a step up from the number of criticisms we have for the previous team. I don't know if Ursaluna Blood Moon is good in UBERS, and it feels not having a lot of pivot is a concern with trying to make Ursaluna Blood Moon good in UBERS. Also, this team's, like, Ghost matchup is just muck, right? Oh no, it's Blood Moon as well.
Is okay.
It's just like...
Ursaluna is okay at checking Ghost as well.
Yeah,
Also,
yeah,
to be
yeah.
clear, the reason I didn't rank this team is because I chugged all of these teams at once and got a little tired by the end of it. Plus, this is my week 1 matchup, so of course the team I have to face is the best in the league.
Oh yes, you also hadn't ranked your own team, but then I asked you to rank your own team. Either way, next team. Woo! Best logo! Yeah!
You with your green bacon.
Why, yes, I will have green eggs and ham, semi-ham. I love bacon and eggs. It's so... bacon and eggs, man. The thing is, I came up with the pun, and then I realized halfway through, oh man, you could make the ham green, like green eggs and ham, and then it would look like the shiny bacon. And that was like in the
Yeah,
middle
there's
of
like
talking
cannibalism
about-
angle for all of our cannibalism enthusiasts.
I don't think that it's made of dragon, because dragon meat is reddish on the inside, not green. It's because they have blood.
Yeah, so
Unlike
is most meat.
all I'm saying is, it does not appear to me that bacon is keeping his diet kosher. But you know, it happens. I don't think my team is like terrible. I just don't think my team's great.
I think this is definitely the hardest team to use out of any that's in the division. Between you not really having slow momentum, not really having much recovery, it's kind
What
of
do you mean?
just
I've got
overpowered.
Deoxys Attack Teleport. That's like, I mean, that's an Uber. Surely it's a good momentum Pokemon.
Moving on from that.
Did
you
you
have
see?
lacking
Did you
momentum?
watch my week 1 yet? I have played it before, and I'm not going to specifically talk about the details. But did you see what happened to my Deoxys?
No, I've deliberately not watched any of these games so that it doesn't affect
okay.
my opinions here.
I do think it is quite funny what happens to my Deoxys in that game. Yeah, I got sniped so many times on so many Pokemon. It was not a vibe. But I think my speed tiers are okay. I would love if I had pivots more than I currently do, but I don't. And like, I would prefer if I had a better poison type than Grafaiai, because there are matchups Grafaiai cannot come to. I didn't even want Tambulele, by the way, when I was drafting this team, but just everything else went. I think Feeny went like 3 picks before me, and I was originally planning on drafting Feeny, so. Tinglu was a little bit better with Feeny than with Lele.
Yeah, the main thing is, I think you do generally have fine momentum, but it's fine, fast momentum. You don't really have good ways to get
will
into
simply-
your
Use my 100 speed Pokemon to click U-turn.
110.
No, 100.
Huh?
I have 110 speed Pokemon. I also have 100 speed Pokemon with U-turn.
Which?
It's the top ranked team on my Pokemon. My round 1.
Oh, right, it's 100. I keep forgetting to actually think about Mega Blaziken's speed because it just clicks Protect Speed Boost anyway.
Maybe that's why I lost week 1. I didn't run Protect. Ignore that, like, I set up for free in front of something that was slower than me. I think actually by the time it hit the field, every single Pokemon my opponent had was slower than it was. And they had like 4 Pokemon left. But I think that mostly speaks for weird speed tiers on other teams. My team has decent fast speed options. It's Deoxys, Torn, and then Ogerpon, right? And Grafai, who's also 110. But is unburdened, theoretically.
Yeah, that's right. As said, it's just a very hard team to use that you could pull off, but we're gonna have to see that. I'm ignoring the player when it comes to the actual team, and it really is those 3 points of no slow momentum, kind of bad recovery. It's really just Tornadoes and maybe Synthesis Ogerpon, and your removal also is
Synthesis Leavanny and recover Deoxys attack, thank you very much. And Roost Mega Blaziken, I think. I think he gets
Will
Roost.
you stop interrupting me to shitpost?
Sorry.
That's fine. But yeah, this is a team that definitely could perform, but it's really gonna be tricky to use. You really gotta be playing much better than other teams need to get similar results. It's possible, but you know, it's
a brain dead sticky web team.
Yeah, speaking of, explain the round 7 Leavanny.
It's pretty simple. Many people had already spent basically all of their points, and only one other person could afford Deoxys, and I wasn't scared of them taking it. Grafai is a terrible Pokemon, so I wasn't scared of them taking it. Tyrantrum. Some people could already not afford Tyrantrum by this point, and also Tyrantrum is a terrible Pokemon, so I wasn't scared of anyone taking it. Leavanny was the only Sticky Webber in 2 that I thought was good, so, yeah.
Alright, I guess. I mean, with all the psychics, you could maybe convince me that Ariados is better than Leavanny, but I'm not interested in arguing
Why would
that low.
Ariados be better in a format with psychics?
I don't know, it gets Sucker Punch. You're sashing both of these anyway.
But Leavanny is faster and has Bug Stab that doesn't die to the opposing psychic type. I feel like, look, I feel like if we're asking Ariados or Leavanny which one is going to trade 1-for-1 with Mewtwo, I would actually bet Leavanny.
Well, you should be sashing both of them because both of them are probably going to get one shot.
I do agree with that.
Yeah, and then
no, I think the next option was Spidops for first impression, right?
Maybe. I don't know what... No, Spidops went later.
Yeah, I wasn't sniped, but I think Leavanny is good, so... John Tyrantrum. Does anyone remember back when that was Rizzo's icon Pokemon? The shiny Tyrantrum?
No.
Why am I the only boomer? Oh, also, all my Pokemon are named after tracks from the new Kendrick Lamar album, GNX. Yeah. Because my team, featuring several Pokemon that I've never drafted before, truly is a grand national experiment.
These power rankings sponsored by Kendrick Lamar, I think. You're gonna have to give me some of that money later as we move on to the next team.
No, sorry, it was sponsored by Universal Music Group. Anyways, Pokefan, the Detroit Oblivion Wings. Would you like to take us through the team?
It's the first point where I started to think the teams are just fine. Nothing bad that
you had
stands
this
out
ranked
that much.
right at the bottom of the list.
I think it's a fine team. You know, it has some problems, but there's nothing really that stand out. Like, you could have used more slow momentum. I don't know about double offensive water, but it's fine, you know.
I do think that the Mega Gyarados is 7 points, and thus is maybe not like a demerit against the team. Is it the team's only Ghost Resist? No, it's Chansey, but I mean it's a Chansey.
Chansey Mega Gyarados is passable. Both have
Let's
really
be honest,
big...
Calyrex is a fucking Ghost Resist. That Pokemon's dumb.
Yeah, it has a huge special defense stat. It can perform somewhat.
I think my view was that Calyrex Ice was the 3rd best legal Pokemon, so I had this team ranked up higher because I think it works well with Calyrex Ice, which is a very good Pokemon, and it has like other decent Pokemon that are good at making you not lose to it. Like this team sniped my Iron Trends. No, that's wrong. It was the other league I wanted Iron Trends in. It was in 2 drafts at once. It was very confusing. especially when Pokemon went in one draft that I wanted in the other, and I'm like, man, I got sniped, but I didn't get sniped.
Yeah, I think the team is fine. Calyrex Ice is certainly one of the best things that are on the board. Personally, not a huge fan, but I can ignore that. My main issue is that you've got so much setup here that I'm not exactly sure, but you've got some pretty situational actual breakers. Zekrom can do it, it prefers to Dragon Dance, but it's fine, the thing barely gets moves anyway, so you can still fit that. Spectre is going to be matchup dependent, and Amoros is a solid breaker, and with that on, you're mostly looking at setup.
You can't tell me that an Amoros is a more consistent breaker than Keldeo.
Well, okay, I don't remember.
Not without Terra. With Terra, absolutely. But like, I mean, it's Keldeo.
I guess I don't remember that many grass poisons or whatever that resist Keldeo dual stat being drafted, so it's fine.
And he also gets flying moves.
I guess Air Slash is sufficient.
Simply flinch. But yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I'm not a massive Amoros Therian fan. Sorry, not Therian. The Incarnate fan. Not that I've ever used an Amoros Therian. I just used an Amoros Incarnate once, and I'm like, man, this mon's kind of okay, but it's 106 speed. And I honestly feel like it's 106 speed vibe is, like, I don't love this team's speed tiers. For one thing, it's got, like, the guy who always wants to set Trick Room, like, get 2 KOs and then die, or just win. And then, like, there's not a Pokemon that wants to come in after Calyrex and Trick Room. Like, surely you're not trying to tell me that I am running Turtonator on this team, with the idea being that after my Calyrex has set Trick Room in exchange for, like, 60%, and then, like, KO'd their first Calyrex resist in exchange for 30% damage, and then has gotten like 70% off the next Pokemon in exchange for 10%. And then you're gonna be like, I will send in Turtonator for. Surely this Pokemon will claim a KO on the last turn of Trick Room. I mean, it's a Turtonator.
I know it's worse for investment, but on this team I definitely feel like Calyrex is more likely to run Agility than Trick Room, because, yeah, once Trick Room if Trick Room is still active and Calyrex died, you do just kind of stall until it's run out.
Yeah, I mean, this team doesn't even, like, necessarily have, like, a great Pokemon to stall when it's run out. Which I think is maybe something right. Look, I think when I've played against Calyrex Ice this gen, I think I'm like probably 33% win rate against it or something. Like, it is very, very difficult to consistently beat on a team that reasonably enables it. I think this team does reasonably enable it. I think that this team can really capitalize on the holes that get blown by. I mean, you say that this team doesn't have a breaker. This team has a Calyrex Ice. That's like its premium function is as a breaker.
It's one of those things where it has many ones that prefer setup rather than just trying to break, excepting the Amoros. But it has so many of them that something can, on a weekly basis, choose to be a breaker instead. So, like, it gets a pass.
Well, I don't think that setting up is inconsistent with breaking, right? You set Trick Room and then make your opponent answer Calyrex Ice for several turns. That is breaking a team. You click Dragon Dance once with Mega Gyarados and trade for a guy. That is contributing to breaking a team, right? You get rid of a guy and you get damage on the next guy.
I'm thinking more about things that can come in and immediately be a threat rather than have to spend a turn.
Yeah, I actually think this problem is revenging, right? Less than breaking. They've got plenty of Pokemon that, after half a turn or after a turn can break. But this team really doesn't have great consistent revenge options outside of Scarfing just everything. And obviously Scarfing just everything is not great when your opponent may be able to switch into an Uber that resists your Amoros and then, like, set up and win the game.
Yeah, I don't love
Holy shit, dude, I hope I don't play this team.
Yeah, I don't like how the only thing faster than a Keldeo is Spectre. I mean, Spectre is fine for speed, but your second biggest speed threat being 108 is not ideal, but the team's fine. I don't have any huge issues with it.
Yeah, I mean, this is a Spec team, where Spec is like the only genuinely fast Pokemon in a format where Pursuit is legal, which isn't amazing. Like, Spec doesn't always lose to Pursuit, doesn't always lose to Dark types, but it can.
The main thing I think about when I look at this team is how Coco lasted until round 6, and I would have loved to see what shape this team would have taken if it got Coco instead of an Amoros.
I I wouldn't have wanted Coco on this. I used Coco Zekrom recently. Holy shit, do you not need Coco with Zekrom?
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
I think
like,
I think I killed the
but-
Venusaur with Electric Terrain up, and I would have just killed it with like Rock's damage and Bolt Strike at +1 with Life Orb.
Yeah, I guess it isn't huge, but it's just...
Well, it is. It's
Just
huge.
need
It's
to-
just the thing is the Bolt Strike and Zekrom are just bigger.
Yeah,
I mostly
I'm
used
just thinking-
the Electric Terrain for my Alolan Raichu.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about how this team could get speed and not really giving it much thought. I'm just firing from the hip here.
But yeah, I think ultimately this team is like... It does have, like, Iron Treads is technically like a fast Pokemon. But that does come at the cost of Iron Tread's bulk and Iron Tread's damage.
Yeah, as said, this team is just pretty solid. It's fine. It's only 11th because we have a lot of teams that are just pretty
11th
good.
because you thought that this was the 5th worst team in the league, and I thought this was like 7th or something.
Man, you could swap any of my 10 in the middle around however you want. It's pretty close here.
Alright, on to Emmanuel and the New York Diamonds. I believe that's meant to be a play on the New York Giants, and I only know the New York Giants exist, or remember. I've like definitely heard them mention other things, but I only remember they exist because of Madagascar.
That's better than me because I've never heard of that sports team. I don't really sports.
Have you not seen the film Madagascar?
I had a tie-in video game when I was growing up.
I don't know if they make the joke in that game. You definitely would have like heard it because it's not an uncommon team for people to make logos and teams parodying. If it
Maybe,
isn't
I think
intentionally a
I'm
New
wrong
York
about
Giants
that.
XP, it's either a tie-in to something similarly the same, or it's just using the same format of the New York Giants, which I think is a little bit less cool than actually referencing an existing team. Mostly I just think that like city I live in or is nearby to me word is like okay, but it's cool being diamond because obviously the diamond orb is the item that the Alka holds to boost its attack and special attack. No, sorry, it's damage. I was thinking it was the other item. To boost the damage of its steel and dragon type moves by 1.2x. This is the Ho-Oh team. Wow, you had this team ranked way lower than I did. No, or I did something? I don't know. I remember liking the Ho-Oh team.
I think
No, yeah, you had this team ranked very low. I mean, this team doesn't have an amazing rock matchup. It relies on Megalopony Terra-ing. It doesn't have a great electric matchup. But I didn't think this team was bad.
I think Rock is okay. I wouldn't really mind that. Rocks is a different topic because it's just the Deoxys, I think. I don't think Toedscruel gets Stealth Rock.
Does Toedscruel not get rocks?
I don't think
know.
so. Let me double check.
I don't know. It might not. I know it gets Spice. I ran that in VGC once.
No
on
Stealth
Toedscruel.
Rock. You've got your Toedscruel and your Quillfish for other hazards. That's fine.
Yeah.
But only one Stealth
Okay.
Rock setter in a meta with this many birds.
Yeah, well, I thought this team was incredible, and then I was like, man, this team doesn't really have much hazard. I do think the fact that they're only like rock, like I don't think that Toedscruel's a real rock resist, so like you really need to Megalopony to take rock, otherwise it's just Goldingo. I don't know. Like Goldingo and Toedscruel do share a fire weakness, but this team isn't broadly weak to fire. I don't know if this team can really get into Azumarill super easily. In terms of like, there's no slow pivot. Oh my gosh, there are only fast pivots on this team.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think that Lokix is the slowest pivot on this team. At 92 speed, question mark?
92, yeah.
Yeah. Lokix isn't very good in VGC, so I haven't seen it much. Last time I saw it, it was at 3 points and undrafted.
I think my main issue with this team is that it doesn't really have bulk good enough for a team that isn't as offensive as you'd like.
For a team that's a Ho-Oh team, wow, does this team not have great Pokemon who love Ho-Oh switching in when they are in, or switching out of Ho-Oh into this Pokemon? Right?
Yeah, I mean, Goldengo Ho-Oh is pretty good bulk.
Oh, I didn't like the water matchup. I really did not like the water matchup of this team.
Yeah, I mean, Toedscruel is neutral, Azumarill doesn't want to get scalded, Naganadel doesn't want to take any hits.
Yeah, I mean, like Naganadel's not super frail. Like it is, you know, it's an Uber for a reason. It's not necessarily a strong reason. I think Naganadel is probably like just legal next gen, but like it doesn't like switching into Scald because it's generally okay to take like one super effective neutral hit or like 2 stab hits, but getting Scald burned, taking like 13, and then losing 6%, 6%, 6% means that it's really only switching into like 1 stab move.
Possibly taking hazards as well on the way to take the water move. Like, it's not super frail, but its health is at a premium.
To be fair,
like, you don't really want to waste
I think
it
it
on that.
basically always runs boots. But
Maybe, it depends.
I mean, if you're in a bad matchup against Omega Salamence, you run Scarf. Oh, that's right. This team's flying matchup is Thunderous and Goldengo. This team's matchup into a lot of things is Goldengo. This team only... yeah, like Goldengo, like if you have Mega Lopunny, you just don't switch into Rock very well. Goldengo was also this team's flying matchup. Goldengo was also this team's matchup to some other type that I am forgetting.
Yeah,
or at least I
it's
thought it
very
was.
uncharitable.
Oh, it's a normal matchup.
Yeah, I know it's very uncharitable to point at one Keymon and say, if you don't have this, it's bad, but Goldengo does so much on this team.
Yeah, and Goldengo is a Pokemon that it is really awesome when you don't make it do so much. Like it's a Pokemon that's absolutely insane if you have other Pokemon that can flex into the slots that it's being forced to, that it's otherwise checking. This team literally only has Goldengo as a normal check, which, you know, it's not like unplayable, but like, because like Arceuses aren't in the format, because again, the big bully, Etesian, personally decided to ban Arceus by putting up a poll, by making another mod put up a poll to say, do you want Arceus in, I think.
Man, if I had the privilege of Dictator Clause, I would not even pull that and just remove Arceus. It's so boring to fight that thing weekly.
I mean, I don't know, man. I feel like very recently it would, I don't think it's classically been a problem. No, it looks like that we did not, in fact, poll Arceus. It just was always banned, which is bullying.
It's not about how problematic it is, it's how incredibly stale it gets to fight the same thing, but with a different type, every single week.
But it's a Pokemon that's very diverse and has a range of settings and applications. Look, I'm mostly just annoyed because there are a bunch of Arceus types I haven't used yet, and I can't check them off of the Arceus, of the Pokemon I haven't used, because I haven't used them. Like, I want to use Arceus Electric. I mean, not really. It doesn't seem very good. But, like, you know, I love clicking Ice Beam. I just don't want to have it on this list anymore, you know?
Unrestricted was last season, and we saw how that went. For now, it's gonna be this.
Was it? I didn't play last season, so I didn't even know. How did it go? What do you mean we saw that? You can't just say that. Like, people, like, everyone who readily remembers the outcomes of previous seasons of Reggie's in WPF.
I'm not assuming you remember it. I'm telling you, it didn't really go well. There were a lot of drops.
So I played in the I played in the Ice last season, which was which was Poke Fusions. I was top seed, and then I dropped because the format was incredibly unfun and boring. I hope we never do it again. Wow, was that format bad? It was so...
There were ways to do it differently, but sometimes you do an experiment and sometimes it doesn't work out. Oh well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the way to do it differently would be just to draft fused Pokemon, which I don't think would be... I think we did it the most interesting way possible, but the format just revolved around every single person having cheese setup guys who my team could beat reliably and no one else's team could beat reliably, so I won a bunch of games for free, and then a bunch of other people won their games for free because they used a cheese setup guy. It just wasn't very interesting. Every matchup was my opponents running the same team, and then I either misplayed and lost to it, or maybe got like burnt. I think the other time I lost, I got like burnt on a bad turn, to like a 5%. But yeah, let's talk about the team that we're actually talking about. Yeah, I'm just not in love with this team overall. I don't even know why it has Deoxys outside of, I think it was just the only Pokemon they could really get with the points. I feel like this team...
the latest drafted Uber out of any of them.
What, sorry?
It might be the latest drafted Uber out of any of them. I'm not sure when the Dialga origin went.
Counterpoint.
Yeah?
Me getting the other Deoxys.
Okay, one of the two. They're kind of interchangeable. They wanted
Deoxys, Dialga Origin was in fact after Emmanuel as well.
Yeah, alright. I guess it wouldn't have fit here.
In fact, both of them went the same round, and then my Deoxys went the round after. God bless America. Yeah, I mean, I think this team is just going to really struggle to get off the back foot when it's on the back foot, and that, like, Ho and Goldango, I just don't think fit the shape of what the rest of this team is very well. Like, low kicks is probably fine on a Goldango. I wouldn't want Naganadel on a Ho-Oh team. I wouldn't want Megalopony on a Ho-Oh team. I wouldn't want fucking Thund-Eye on a Ho-Oh team. I'd much prefer Thun-T on a Ho-Oh team, and I'm pretty sure they were the same price, and I think Thun-T was legal, like, right at the end of the draft, because I considered picking it up instead of Deoxys. Like, yeah. It's just a lot of Pokemon. It's got Ho-Oh and Goldengo, which are these incredible Pokemon that fit super well into a lot of, like, really balanced teams, and then it's like H.O. Slush.
Kind of,
and Thunderous, who just sucks. Like, this is UBERS. You're allowed to use real Pokemon.
Kind of. It's this awkward middle ground where it's not really balanced, it's not really offensive enough for how limited the defensive options are. It's just an awkward middle ground.
Yeah, I mean, like, this team has the best defensive Pokemon in the format in Ho-Oh. And then Toedscruel and Goldengo.
Yeah, when I was looking at the defense, I considered Ho-Oh and Goldengo as the clear top two, and then I wasn't sure whether the Hisuian Quillfish is actually a better wall than the Toedscruel. And if I have to think about that, then your defense isn't that good.
Last time I saw a Hisuian Quillfish in a game, it Swords Danced in Rain.
It can try to be Intimidate and Spike when...
Oh yeah, no, I'm sure that set's better. It's just, I saw it in a low tier where it used Swords Dance in Rain and won. I also saw regular Quillfish and Overquill do the same thing against... in the same week.
Thinking about it, the last 3 times I've done low tier, I did also run manual rain Swift Swimmers. So yeah, that's just kind of a good strategy down there.
Yeah. In the league, the Pokemon with weather abilities aren't allowed to run like Damp Rock, Smooth Rock, but the regular setters are. So the regular setters are just like 50 times better than the manual than the ability setters. It's like, wow, I could get Politoed, or I could get like Volbeat, and Volbeat will be better.
Yeah, especially because a lot of low tier bans the weather setting abilities anyway. But we're getting off track.
It depends how low the tier is. Yeah. Either way, I think this team is funny. I think I rated this a little bit higher than you did, and I understand why I did, and I also understand why you rated it low. It's got issues. I think cohesiveness is really going to be a significant portion of the issue. I really wonder what their team building process looks like. And like, I don't know, like, do you really want to not bring Azumarill because you're bringing Toedscruel? I mean, I know who you drop for Toedscruel. It's obviously Thunderous, but do you really want to drop Thunderous for Toedscruel? Well, look,
this team is definitely going to provide some of the more interesting replays just to see how the team shakes out. Yeah. It's possible that it has a pacing issue, but we're going to see how the player wields it.
Alright. Week 9. Week 9, play 9. The Castelia Shifus. Destiny. I've heard that Destiny's children are quite talented musicians.
One Uber, so it's spiritually last.
I don't agree that it only has one Uber. I mean, they've got Valiant, which I think is sufficiently Uberish enough.
It's always allowed in every standard league.
Yeah, but like, I've seen many Ubers leagues that literally just put it as like the bar, like it's the best guy or the second best guy in every standard league. I think when you play against it in an Ubers league, you're not like, man, I'm so glad that they have an Iron Valiant instead of, checks the previous notes, paying 5 points more for fucking regular Deoxys. Like...
We can give it 1.5 Uber in that case, but it's still Uber and not Ubers.
Yeah. I mean, I was almost that. I almost didn't get Deoxys. But my team's just bad, so... I don't know why I'm like, yes, well, you see, my team also did this. Well, my team was terrible. They've got starters, which would be really cool if this was VGC and they could use pledges together to do stuff. They're not the same. They're not starters from the same game, so I don't know why they got so many starters. I guess it's just because they're okay. I don't really know why this team has Rillaboom. They followed it with Donphan.
Donphan gets horsepower. That's okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't really know this team is like they have Iron Valiant and Greninja, so it's not like they want to run into opposing Grassy Glide. Like if my Ogerpon into this team is like, okay, well now I actually have to worry about it with my Iron Valiant, and otherwise Iron Valiant purely trivializes the Pokemon. Mega Aggron, of course, does appreciate their recovery. I don't think the Glowcoin really cares that much. I've seen that Mon staying in Landorus. Pure Might.
It helps, especially against some of them that don't actually get high horsepower and have to settle for Tantrum instead. Then Glowking can even avoid the 2 KO from some of them.
Just run Earth Power, guys. It's not that hard. I love Earth Power Donphan. It's great. But yeah, Pure Might is pretty good. I don't know if this team enables it amazingly, but this team has a lot more of the pivots. Even if it doesn't have like amazing slow pivots, I think it's like, I don't know, are we counting Rillaboom as a slow pivot? We see a lot of teams right around Rillaboom speed tier for like 90% of their team.
It does have a Cloaking to pass into Kyurem. I think that's a good combination, even though you didn't really have to take Cloaking round 2.
I just remembered. Actually, Reception exists.
Yeah.
Dude, if I was going to take this Cloaking if it got to me in round 3.
I can see that. I mean, early round 3 or mid round 3 for you isn't a bad time for Cloaking. I don't know about making it early round 2 though.
I mean, like, it's fun to use Snow with Kyurem White.
Oh yeah, it's a good combination. I just figured they could have waited a little bit, and worst
Here's
case,
an exhaustive list of every better Pokemon than Galar Slowking that was on the board. Grey Tusk. Probably like some of the Ubers, I don't know. It's an exhaustive list.
Yeah, some Ubers were very much still on the board at the time.
Oh yeah, no, I just don't know which of them are consistently better than Cloaking. You know, like, you're not gonna tell me Deoxys attack is consistently better than Cloaking. Sorry.
I didn't really look at what exactly was available then. They chose how to make their team, and it's solid. It's not bad.
I think this is a reasonable team. I don't remember where we put it relative to each other. I think we both maybe just put this one a bit in the middle. The team is okay. I don't have any problem with it. Speaking of the next team, which both of us also put right in the middle, is Schmite with the Rhode Island Rampardos. We do love the Canon Schmite logo here. This team has Great Tusk. Honestly, I should have put a rank 1. I hate that Pokemon. Can you explain to me why Great Tusk beats everything on my team?
Yeah, it does have a Great Tusk, and that's kind of where I started noticing that it has a Great Tusk and it has an Ogerpon, and it doesn't really have physical attack other than that.
I mean, it's got Dialga, but this Dialga is not as good on the physical attack as the regular one is.
Both the Origin forms have 100 base attack rather than 120.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
I also really don't know what the Dialga Origin is doing here when you already had an
it's pretty simple. They said they thought it would be funny.
Yeah, but it'd be funny to get it during the draft and then do something during the grace period.
I don't agree. I actually think that would be very unfunny.
Maybe, but I'm just looking at the bottom 24 points on this team and thinking you could really spend it.
I have looked at building against this team, and, you know, Dialga Origin, frankly, I think regular Dialga is very bad, and I think Dialga Origin solves one of the problems of regular Dialga, being that regular Dialga has no special defense.
Is that worth losing the item slot for?
Well, the thing is that regular Dialga kind of sucks, so you're running Life Orb or Adamant Orb anyway.
Yeah, but I think neither Dialga really
like, you use the flexibility to run Scarf, but Dialga regular needs Adamant Orb. So this guy also has it. That said, I did look at it. I drafted it in the other draft because I've never used Dialga Origin before. I know, surprising. And I was like, I thought it's 20, because the Palkia's 20 goes from attack to speed. I thought it, in Dialga Origin, I genuinely thought it went from attack to special attack. And I saw it went to special defense. And I'm like, that does help. But obviously, you know, you'd prefer it went to special attack. Because, I mean, both Dialgas have the issue of not doing enough damage sometimes. even
think
after the
they're
boost.
fine.
Without
It's
the
just
boost,
that
fucking,
you
you run Scarf Dialga, and you will like see their Pokemon live the Draco. Like, it's
I
a
think they're
sad
fine
Pokemon.
enough. It's just that I could think of so many different ways to spend 24 points on this team rather than get the bottom free. It's not that Dialga Origin is unbringable for this team, but you could have done so much better, and it
I don't know.
making
I used Palkia Origin. I thought it was not very good.
With one.
I guess maybe Palkia. Just I don't really like the Palkia and Dialga designs very much in terms of how they feel to play. Dialga has rocks though, so it feels like it's better. It is one of the it enables the best Pokemon on this team in Mew and Great Tusk to not feel obligated to run rocks, while being a Pokemon that is a good rock setter. So I feel like I feel like between Dialga and Palkia, if you're like me who dislikes both, Dialga feels better because it has rocks, so it contributes meaningfully to a team on a consistent game-to-game basis.
Oh, if you want to talk about which one is more important here, then it's definitely the Palkia, because that's speed. Otherwise, it taps out at Ogerpon.
No, it does have at Booster Great Tusk, thank you very much. Yeah, no, the speed on this team is definitely a concern. That's it. Like, Toxapex and Mandibuzz are like a really good backbone. Both those Pokemon who are very good in UBERS. Megino exists. We haven't really talked about it, but it is the best Pokemon on this team. It is a very good Pokemon.
Yeah, and you look at Mandibuzz Toxapex and think, okay, all you have to do is spam electric moves, but between the Dialga and the Tusk, you really can't click those freely, and the Ogerpon.
Yeah, McGinn is the only
So
Dragon
Resist
Resist on this team.
well. Come again?
McGinn is the only Dragon Resist on this team.
Yeah, that's a problem. It has a lot of raw bulk, but stuff like Mew and Mandibuzz can be taken advantage of.
Yeah, I mean, no, I don't think that's how I would describe someone next to Mew. I don't think taking advantage of is like something you can consistently prep to do against Mew. I think you find out after they've shown you the 3 of their 4 moves. Okay, maybe I can set up in front of it.
Kind of, but you're already going to be spamming Taunt because of the Mandibuzz Toxapex. And that shuts down a lot of Mew.
Yeah. It can. Depends on the skill of the builder. I don't think this team relies on Toxapex. Sorry, no, that's not true. I don't think this team cares if Mandibuzz gets taunted super much. It definitely cares somewhat. But like, this isn't a team that really relies on Defog for Mandibuzz. They have a Great Tusk.
Yeah, that's not super necessary, and a lot of the value in Mandibuzz here is being slow save momentum into the other guns.
Yeah, it's good U-turn mon. It's a really good knockoff mon as well. I think that's the other thing. Like, I really think that's something that Palkia Origin relies on, is having consistently good knockoff, and having Mew, Ogerpon, Mandibuzz. I think Great Tusk may also get knockoff.
It does.
Yeah. Sorry, it's just Great Tusk has so many broken moves. I just assume it has everything, and then I'm always correct. Like, what a bullshit Pokemon, dude. Why the fuck they make this Pokemon? Like, you have to commit so much to... Like, I like I said, I prepped against this team. You have to commit so much to prepping against Great Tusk. What a ridiculous Pokemon.
I think the only coverage move I've ever noticed Tusk doesn't have and kind of wanted is Psychic Fangs, and that was like twice.
Yeah. I don't even know what Psychic Pokemon it doesn't have another... Or, like, what Psychic Weak Pokemon it doesn't have another super effective move into.
Kinda just base Wheezing that I remember.
That would make sense. Yeah, Wheezing. Okay. It's like
It
only a
only
levitating
happened
poison
twice.
type. Yeah, I mean that's fair. I'm sorry to hear that there is a single Pokemon that can check Great Tusk. Somewhat.
Hey, let's say it only happened twice that I noticed any lack in this thing.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous Pokemon. And then it's not like this team even has to bring it, right? Look at this team.
I think it kinda does for the sake of physical breaking, but it can do without.
Yeah. I mean, this team is not a team that is reliant on breakers. This is a team that has very consistent offense on the special side, as well as good setup, but also it has a really consistent defensive presence. Also, there's a Kamala. I only just noticed this Kamala. I built against this team. I did not notice it had a Kamala. Did I forget to put it on the... I may have forgotten to paste it into the matchup.
Honestly, it's Kamala, you might as well not add it again.
I mean, there are teams that we've seen that don't have a good Kamala check. This team obviously has 2 steals, so, they didn't really need
At
to
least
keep
it's
the
got
Kamala
a
for
spinner, unlike most people. Unlike me.
I think this team just generally has good matchups into most types, even if not necessarily amazing matchups. I remember disliking one type matchup, but I don't remember what that is looking at it now. So, Fairy and Dragon. Both the Fairy matchups are weak to ground, which is mildly annoying, and they only have one Dragon resist. But yeah.
I'll grant you Dragon, but I'm not super concerned about Fairy simply because Fairy ground isn't that common. And if you're only gonna have 2 Fairy checks, then Maguna Toxapex is really good in that regard. Especially if you're running Eject Pack Toxapex, so you can actually get out of there.
Simply Eject Pack all the time. Yeah. Blue 24 and the Rugby Registeals. I don't know, because we don't seem to put time zones on the dock anymore. We used to put time zones on the dock. I don't know what happened to that.
No one ever checks those, and sometimes people
I
travel.
always used it every week.
You're you're maybe the first person I've heard that does that.
I also used to have to put them on the dock, so I knew that they were there. Back in my modding days. I think maybe many people don't necessarily notice them because they ask for time zones, but if they're on the dock, then and you know that they're there, then obviously they're helpful. But anyways, this team is not very fast.
Yeah, I think its top end speed is. I think it has enough fast things, but its fastest is the slowest in the league in Raikou. Everyone else has at least 120 going.
Like, my team isn't very fast, but at least I've got 150. Yeah. No, I mean, the problem is not that that it has the Mega Lucario and Raikou at 112.15. The problem is that it then has a Rude, and then everything else is below 100. And I would say Raikou and Zarude kind of share a similar offensive profile. Again, not an issue of Zarude. It's sort of similar to the Reshiram Ninetales, except they're worse Pokemon. The Zarude covers more things than Raikou does, but Raikou really doesn't cover a lot of stuff that Zarude doesn't already. Mostly because Raikou is not great. This team has a lot of budget Pokemon, and I don't know why. I feel like this team really only has a top 5.
Nah, I can see what basically everything on this team does. I don't think the Muck is real, and Comfy might be simply too weak for UBERS.
Well, you see,
get
the Muck
everything else.
clicks Toxic Spikes.
Yeah, it's
and
fine for that. But
the Mug is their Deoxys attack check. It clicks Shadow Sneak and does 300%.
I think it's fine. I don't see anything on this team that is unnecessary or redundant, because I'm not going to be too harsh on the 2-point Mug because it's a 2-point.
Yeah, I mean, they had to get 10 Pokemon, right? Or was that the other league? I don't know. I was in one league that said you had to get 10, and one that said you had to get 9.
You have to get 10 or 11 here.
Yeah, 10 or 11, okay, yeah. So this is the 10 one. I mean, they literally had to get Muck out of it. My problem is more I feel like the Heatran or the Zarude could have been a better guy, instead of spending 10 on a Raikou or 8 on a Blastoise. I don't think the Blastoise is a real water type. I wouldn't trust it to check a Reshiram.
I wouldn't really trust it a lot for raw bulk.
That's right.
But
I think this team just auto loses to so many Ubers. That was my problem with this team. Sorry, you had this team ranked quite high. I had this team ranked quite low. I had this team ranked 10th, I think. This team, Lunala, is half of the time better than their normal Pokemon at checking the Pokemon that they're supposed to check. There's just too much more breaker for Heatran. This just everything is ground moves.
To be much check to anything. I think it's just here to be a slow flip turner and to be a spinner, and it's okay at that.
That sounds like a great way to have your opponent set up and immediately win the game, because you decided to put a Blastoise on the field and click Rapid Spin or Flip Turn. Did you know that it's actually quicker to type /4? I don't know. I didn't like Mega Blastoise this gen when I had it. I really don't feel like I'm in love with regular Blastoise.
It's okay for the price it had.
Is it? 8 is a lot, man.
8 is not a lot for that.
Dude, freaking Amoonguss is an 8. Cerulege is an 8. Lokix was an 8.
Doesn't get Spore anymore. Cerulege is kind of whatever.
What's right?
Amoonguss doesn't get Spore anymore.
Oh, is it banned? Is Sleep banned?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know
because
that.
Of the small
I didn't remember. I mean, too many leagues at once, man. I mean, leagues where Sleep is banned, and leagues where Sleep is not banned, and I just don't remember which ones are which.
Yeah, I think this team is fine with the main caveat that it's going to be very matchup dependent on how well the bulk can actually hold up. Because ice moves, ground moves, and whatever for
Like, I feel
Lunala
like if
is
this
really
team
not
doesn't
on
Dragon
par.
Dance with Kieran Blackett, is probably not winning that game.
It gets scale shot. But you got a Mega
Okay,
Lucario as well. Lunala
I don't
can
think
probably do
that
something.
a neutral Kieran Black wins a game. Like a neutral attack. I think without an attack boost on Kieran Black, this team is probably not winning a game. I don't think
They
this
do
team
have
is clearing out
Titan
games. I don't think
Spring,
Glasgow is clearing out games in
yeah.
UBERS. I don't think Mega Lucario is, as the fastest Pokemon on a team, is clearing out games in UBERS. Mega Lucario is good, but it's not like Extreme Speed, my opponent's what's it called?
Right,
What's
who's
the guy
fastest?
called? The Palkia Origin.
not-
Good, you know?
If not for the Gliscor, I would agree, but this is the rare team that actually does have both spikes and spins, so it can sort of attempt to play the long game until
I mean, I
things are
didn't
whistled.
specifically forget the Gliscor spikes. I forgot in the process of this conversation. I just feel like this team has a lot of Pokemon that don't necessarily have the damage and also don't necessarily have the speed, and there are ways to make up for either, but it's difficult to make up for both. So that's why I had this team ranked quite low. Also,
I'm concerned
like,
about the bulk being very matchup dependent.
their only rockers are Gliscor and Heatran, and honestly, both those Pokemon love not having to run rocks. But they are both good rockers. It's just that they also like having full move slots. Like, I feel like on this team, if Gliscor had the ability to not run any hazards, I would feel better about this team. But this team really appreciates spikes. It really appreciates rocks. And Gliscor is their only spiker and one of their two rockers. And they're, like, because this is like a wide team, right? Like, you probably bring the top 3 every game, but you need to flex out of Heatran or Zarude to bring, like, a Blastoise or a Raikou or a Comfey. That's not amazing. Zarude doesn't have Terra. Zarude is so good with Terra, but is less good without Terra.
I think it's a fine team. It's just going to be maybe the most matchup dependent out of all of these.
Maybe. Matchup dependence is not a great sign of Ubers. Also, the flying resist. Heatran and Raikou with the flying resists. I remember feeling like that was a bit of a concern. And is Heatran the only fairy resist besides Muck? Yes. But you don't want to bring Heatran every game, man, because it's a Heatran. That's right, yeah, Lunala is just your check to everything, because otherwise Heatran's your check to everything, and you really don't want to bring Heatran every game. It's not like your opponent feels bad running Earthquake, you have a Mega Lucario. Yeah, I mean, that I think is a bit my concern. I remember not feeling in love with this because it only has one fairy resist, and besides, like, Muck. And it's not like Heatran and Muck have... Like, Muck is weak to loses to the same stuff Heatran does. I guess not fighting types. Pluto and the Charm City Chincho. So I had ranked this team number 1. You did not rank this team number 1. You think that Fluttermane is bad.
I never said that.
I don't see what other conclusion one could take from.
I think my main concerns with this team, even though I don't have that many, I think it is a pretty good team, is that you're basically forced to use the Groudon for actual bulk, because otherwise you really only have Groudon and Snorlax for bulk, alongside the fact that Groudon is the only hazard setter aside from the Cloth.
You had this team in the bottom 5. What do you mean you don't think this team's bad?
I told you I didn't pay too much attention to the numbers. But really, I think this is a really good offensive team.
I don't think
with,
this team needs
nothing backing it.
Like, I don't think this team is super reliant on rocks.
It isn't, but it's also... Groudon is the only hazard setter. Of any kind.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely would be a degree of flexibility. Maybe I shouldn't have made this rank 1. I mean, you didn't like basically most of my top 5. So,
I think this is a really good offense team with nothing really backing it up. It has to go 100% hyper offense all the time. Plus Snorlax.
Yeah, I don't know why
is actually a
Snorlax costs 13. I won't lie.
I'm not sure either. I do like it on this
I mean,
team
you
because...
are the commissioner. The buck stops with you. Or the co-commissioner, sorry, I think.
I'm just a mod.
Are you a mod? Wait, are you not co-commissioner?
Yeah. We kind of did away with the role, I think. I'm not sure. I did step down at some point, so I probably lost 10.
Okay. You do have the X-mod role, that's true. I didn't realize you weren't co-commissioner anymore.
Anyway, moving on from that. I think this is a good team, but it has absolutely practically no flexibility.
Yeah.
Not really any.
I think that you
reliable
can't bring
core.
a lot of the Pokemon on this team, or maybe a lot of them is a bit of an exaggeration, but like, I don't know. As great as Mega Houndoom feels like at 3 points, are you going to bring that over a Cinderace?
It's 3 points. I'm not gonna judge that.
Yeah, but like it's
more
3 points
viewable,
that
though.
doesn't give them another hazard setter.
4 points. I'm not sure you'd actually bring whatever you get there. I mean, even the Skunk Tank is fine.
But that could have been one 7-point Pokemon, you know?
Yeah, or an 8-pointer rather.
No, it would. It couldn't have
But
been
yeah,
an
you need
8-pointer.
yeah, 7-pointer then.
Like it could have been, you know, like a Rhyperior, an OK Rocker, Palossand's, like, you know, I think it could have been something which more consistently contributed. It could have been Mega Pinsir, and like Mega Pinsir does genuinely add to this team's overall offensive profile, because it gives a flying type that has flying type moves, and it also rocks. But like I can't hate on Mega Houndoom at that price. I just feel like something needed to go. And let's be real, I think we mentioned it already. It was Snorlax, but if it wasn't Snorlax, it probably had to be something else. And that's something else. Like it had to give utility. This team is predominantly lacking on the utility side of things. It's got incredible damage. It's got a really good speed control, right? It's literally got Flutter Mane in Sun and Walking Wake in Sun. I just feel like there's maybe a little bit of overlap in what the like mid tiers provide to this team, where if I was going to be doubling up on a role, it would be the hazard setter with the Groudon, right? That said, they do have a second hazard setter.
You mean either Cloth, Stealth Rocks, or Skunk Tank Toxic Spikes?
No,
And I'm not seeing
I mean,
coming much.
One of the Pokemon that are among their like Pokemon that cost more than 10 points also sets hazards.
Cinderace doesn't count.
It does count. Trust me, I have forgotten that Cinderace got court changed and then been court changed on more than one occasion.
It very situationally counts, especially when you yourself are setting spikes, which Groudon can.
Yeah, it can, but if you don't want to, just not.
Sure. Either way, I do agree with you that utility is definitely this team's biggest flaw.
Yeah.
Though I actually do like the Snorlax here. It is quite a nice bulky fire check on your team where the water type and dragon
Have a
type are the
Walking
same
Wake.
thing. Yeah, but it's only one thing.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like
Cinderace
any of the
Walking Wake is
Pokemon,
one
Snorlax, Thundurus, Lilligant, or the like Skuntank and Mega Houndoom could have been exchanged for utility, and that probably would have improved the team overall. Like this team
Yeah,
could
would
really
definitely
benefit from a poison type that was good.
Yeah, we'll definitely cut the bottom 5 and maybe even the Snorlax as well. Like, it fits, but you can spend that money elsewhere.
I don't dislike having Thundurus, Lilligant, Snorlax, Mega Houndoom, right? But I dislike having all 4 of them, because I think all 4 of them, like I don't think that Snorlax is a great defensive Pokemon in, frankly, in Generation 7, let alone 8 and 9. But you know, it's cool to click Choice Band Double Edge.
Yeah, Snorlax is fine if you're willing to do anything other than Curse, which some people insist on always.
Isn't
every
Curse
week.
like an obnoxiously bad move? Don't you just immediately, like, again, it will take less time and animation to type slash forfeit, you know. Especially on this team. This team's fighting resists is Flutter Mane and Thundurus. You know, Flutter Mane's a ghost type, so if you think about it, it's really 55 defense.
Yeah, that brings us back to the poison type issue, which would also be helping with Fairy.
Yeah, I mean, I think this team's fine into fairy types. They have a Genesect, Cinderace, Flutter Mane, and Groudon. I think all of those are like good into most fairies.
Yes, but as far as raw resists go, Genesect is a question mark because of how many get fire moves, and Cinderace just isn't that bulky. Like, you'll take one here.
I mean,
or
this
there.
team's fire resist is Walking Wake, and then theoretically Snorlax. Everything else is not taking fire moves well in Sun.
I mean, Fairy, not Fire, but...
Yeah, no, I know, as well.
fire
But we were
moves-
talking about
yeah,
Genesect
for-
being bad because of fire moves. And that is true.
No, yeah, for fire moves, how well
Like,
they take.
The thing is that
It's not
Pelipper
great.
is not a water resist, and Groudon is definitely not a fire resist. But Groudon actually kills fires, and Pelipper does not consistently kill all waters, so...
Yeah. Also, what do you think of Hisui and Lilligant on a Sun team? I kind of feel like it needs Hustle to actually do damage. So
I have
Chlorophyll is-
literally never seen this Pokemon in singles. Outside of Ranbats, I think. I might have seen it in Ranbats. I have never seen this Pokemon in singles. In VGC, it sure as shit doesn't need Hustle to click what's the after you.
Yeah, fair enough.
No, I mean, I would say traditionally, I perceive it as a sufficiently offensive Pokemon. It's also a Pokemon that has access to Victory Dance, which I think is difficult to set up on this team because of the fire weakness. But, like, it's an option. Holy shit, dude, Sleep is banned. This Pokemon is 11 points without Sleep Powder? Is the Hustle set that good?
It lets it actually do damage, where otherwise it only has 105 attack.
I mean, yeah, 105 is. I mean, look. The reality is that I mean, my broad view has basically always been that base stats are pretty like insignificant compared to like boosting abilities, high base power attacks. Like I don't know, what's like a if we look at like into like a max HP, somewhat defensive Mew. If you click a Sword Stance, you're gonna OHKO the Mew with Solar Blade, even if it's defensive. Like. You don't need Hustle. And if you have Hustle, I don't think you're OHKOing Mew anyways.
Yeah, that's the thing. Aside from Solar
Oh my god,
Blade,
they have to run Heat Rock on a Groudon. That doesn't feel fun.
I'm not sure they have... Well, they certainly benefit a lot from it.
Well, they've got like 4 Pokemon that want to be in Sun.
Kind of. I don't really see that Hisuian Lilligant is a huge Sun synergy despite the Chlorophyll, because I really do think you need Hustle to be doing
I don't know.
much damage.
I've never seen it like run Hustle ever. I've seen it do perfectly fine feeling damage with Chlorophyll in a VGC context, which is where I would often say that damage is more of a premium. Just the fact that it has close combat is good. The fact that it can use Solar Blade is good, right? I mean, what is the difference? Is Hustle Leaf Blade's weaker than Solar Blade, isn't it? No, it's 90 base power, so it is slightly stronger than clicking Solar Blade in Sun.
Well, you can run Solar Blade with either anyway.
What's right?
You can run Solar Blade with either.
Sure. I mean, I wouldn't want to run Solar Blade on Hustle because I'd like to click moves when I'm not in Sun. I don't know. It doesn't seem to me like you can run. You have the ability to run Adamant more easily if you're good at doing Chlorophyll. Like I'm looking at like the Lilligant sets in Calc, and the Lilligant sets in Calc are all Sun boosted. Or they're like Victory Lens stuff, Victory Dance stuff. So like, I don't feel like it has to run
I'm not
Hustle.
sure what's going on with Lago anymore.
I don't know. Like I don't know. I don't feel like Chlorophyll is a significant impediment to its damage output in the format. Close Combat is just a good move, and Solar Blade is a cool move. But I do feel like you have to sometimes run Heat Rock at the very least for Walking Awake and Fluttermane, and to some extent for Cinderace.
Yeah, that wasn't really a
fight.
complaint about Lilligant being there, just a curiosity that I don't know whether it's worth it to swap the ability, but it'll depend on
Yeah,
the
I don't know. I kind of hate Hustle as an ability.
Sometimes you need it. Sometimes you gotta.
Yeah, man. And sometimes you like getting moves consistently. I do love this Carkle, Midnight Carkle Riders with the Carkle's face and then the Carkle's wheels on the hooves. Unfortunately, Ornn is a hater, a coward, and a fake fan who did not draft Carkle and instead spent that 1 point on Whiscash. So I think Ornn's really good. I asked Ornn for advice multiple times throughout this draft. Why is the only rockers Nihilego and Whiscash? Why is the only spiker Whiscash?
The only rockers are Nihilego, Whiscash. The only remover is the Whimsicott.
Wait, is that true? I didn't even think about
that.
Yeah, man. I co-signed the Nihilego. I didn't realize that you were going to get Aegislash, also known as Badgerslash, as the thing. The thing is, right? Instead of Nihilego, they were considering getting Glamora, who can be killed more consistently than Nihilego before it says Ross. Also, the speed on this team, like the only mon that you can really scarf on this team is Nihilego. But this team does have like a lot of naturally fast Pokemon. It's just like Dragon Dancers, you better kill with Jianpao or Nihilego.
Yeah, it isn't super scarfable, but it has a lot of high base speed and enough damage to where it's not like mono lose to setup.
Yeah. Also, Kyogre is not a water resist.
Once something gets rolling, though.
Kyogre's not a water resist, and then the Zygarde is not a water resist. So your water resists are Araquanid and Whimsicott.
Yeah, and I don't think Whimsicott is bulky enough to be taking that in UBERS.
It really depends. The good news is that Primal Koga, when it switches out, removes rain, unlike Pelipper. Yeah, I do feel like there are flaws with this team that hold it back, but it is still like a Zamazenta Chen Pal Zygon C team. I mean, like, if you look at the thing, like, this guy got Kilowattrel for 3 points, and then that other person got, like, Snorlax for 13. And I feel like Kilowattrel is probably going to be, like, actually bringable. Like, there are matchups where, you know, an opponent sees Kilowattrel on the team and is like, man, that's really annoying. I don't have great flying resists. Unfortunately, this team, I think, wasn't there a type I was like, man, this team is, oh yeah, water. I already talked about that. I withdraw my complaint.
Yeah, it's a team with a bunch of really good mons, but the bad hazard situation and the fact it has like no recovery really bring it into question how well you're gonna be able to position your offense.
Am I just like too old in terms of like VGC and singles and stuff? I don't remember recovery feeling super premium. I remember Wish being cool, but I don't remember such a focus on recovery. I think both of us rank this team in similar places. I think maybe for
I
different.
wouldn't really put that much of a focus on removal if it had some really. Like, this isn't an ass-out hyper offense team. You have some set of options.
This team is not a super setup B team. It would be good if it had removal. It would also be good if it had a rocker that wasn't named Heligo or Whiscash. It would be good if it did not have an Age Slash. I don't think Age Slash does anything on this team outside of being a Pokemon that has to take hits because it's the Steel Ghost type.
Yeah, I'm not calling this setup spam by any means, but you have a lot of offense that I'm not sure you're supporting all that well. I'm not sure you're getting into it too well.
And it's not like this is an Araquanid team either. I don't know why this has such a premium Sticky Web setter when Zygarde doesn't abuse Sticky Web, Chanpao doesn't abuse Sticky Web, Zamazenta doesn't abuse Sticky Web, Primal Kyogre only kinda does?
Yeah, maybe they just took it because they like the water type and it happens to have
it's true.
webs.
I mean, it helps. It's one of their 2 water resists. Yeah. I do think Whimsicott's like a decent addition to this team. I do think it. One of the things this team doesn't love, like I said, is like those crazy dragon dancers or whatever. Whimsicott giving Prankster Encore, and then likely also threatening a Pokemon somewhat with Moonblast, is genuinely nice. Also, there's the Orange Special of Titanol, which is, you know, pretty decent at taking hits and getting slow pivots off. Yeah. Zamazenta feels less good to me since it got nerfed. That's crazy, I know. How could a Pokemon feel worse after it got nerfed? But it really did not need to get nerfed in the same way that Zacian did.
Yeah, that's a whole other can of beans, but they got it at 19, they got it at mid-ish, late round 2, that's fine.
Alright. Suez 2 and the Oklahoma City, I believe that's what OKC stands for. Oklahoma City Thunderous. That may not be what OKC stands for.
Well, I wouldn't know, they didn't specify.
I mean, they're okay. Yeah, see. Suez 2, you did not like this team, I did like this team. I think that you were just significantly underrating how broken Terrapagos is. I think that was my main vibe from when we were talking about this team previously. I think Terrapagos is ridiculously good in Ubers. Ridiculously good in Ubers.
I don't doubt it. I didn't mention it when we were talking, but I know it's good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you just said, like, this team doesn't have great pivots. I think that was it. I'm like, man, I think this team is insane. I feel like if I would see this team at Team Preview, I would cry.
Hey, it is a good team. It is 4th.
Yes. I honestly don't know why I didn't have this team first. Like, I'm looking at this team, I'm like, man. So this team has good rocks, right? It's got 3 good rockers. 4 good rockers. I apologize, I didn't include Bronzong in my list by accident.
Yeah, alright.
It's got a good spiker. It's got good spin. Like, it's got a Mega Cadet for 1 point, who does seem like a genuine, like, useful thing to have on this team. The, like, reasonably strong Shadow Sneaks and Poltergeists. It's got Assassin. Yeah, I think this team is just, like, genuinely really good. I like this Ursaluna more than Blood Moon. But I might be dumb for thinking that.
It can be fine.
I haven't used this Ursaluna. I have used Blood Moon, and I felt the special attack and speed, special offense and speed were flaws. And this Pokemon has the same flaws, but I haven't used it, so I haven't felt its flaws.
It can be fine, especially when you have Bronzong to pass Trick Room into Ursaluna. And
Yeah.
Porygon.
I love clicking Trick Room and then Explode. Man, singles Trick Room feels so much worse than VGC Trick Room, huh?
Is this the rest of the video? You're just gonna talk about VGC instead?
What do you mean the rest of the video? That's been I'm like, man, Bronzong Ursaluna, that sounds like kind of good. And then I'm like, huh. Incineroar or Bronzong Ursaluna, that's kind of like, you have to explode with Bronzong.
Or you click Trick Room Teleport with the base Porygon.
With I was gonna say.
Yeah, it's kind of bringable actually. It's not the worst.
No, I thought Bronzong got teleport for a second. And I'm like,
no, I wish.
It does? No, it doesn't. Also, Skyman is really annoying because if your opponent runs Covert Cloak, again, I've mentioned this previously and I will reiterate it. The slash retreat is quicker. Slash forfeit, sorry. Slash forfeit is quicker than running Covert Cloak to try and not get flinched by a Skyman. Last time I used Skyman, I think I only went for a flinch once. Every single other time, I was either forcing the Pokemon to switch, or I was just KOing it. Flying types are good.
Yeah, and good thing to have two of them.
Yeah, man. I don't know if the team is coming up or if we just didn't really talk about it, but there are some teams that didn't have great flying matchups, and this is the exact sort of team that exploits that really consistently. We mentioned there are teams that don't have great fairy matchups. This is the exact team that exploits that consistently, right? We mentioned there were teams that didn't have great normal matchups. This is the exact team that exploits that consistently. We didn't really talk about rock matchups super much, but there were some teams that were like not amazing into rock, and obviously this is Meteor Beam, Earth Power, Glamora, you know? It's a good mod. It's the same thing with Nihilego. I think Nihilego is good, and maybe even better than Glamora in an UBERS context because of the speed difference. And Beast Boost.
Yeah, this is a good team. I only really have the momentum as a complaint, but otherwise it's very good. It's up here for a reason.
It has the greatest U-turners of all time, Rayquaza and Incineroar. Incineroar famous for being Wolfie VGC's favorite Pokemon, and Rayquaza famous for Wolfie VGC saying it wasn't very good. Now, are we ready to head into the next Pokemon? Next team.
I think we're done here.
Shandy and the Opinionated Odysseus. I don't know. Sorry.
You good?
I mean, it's got an Yveltal, you know? Yveltal's a good Pokemon. I'm trying to remember.
Seriously, are you good?
No, I'm trying to remember why I had this team ranked so high, and I don't remember why. You had this team ranked pretty low relative to me. I don't remember why I had this team ranked so high. I know at one point, as I was going through the process of looking at the teams, this was like my rank 1 team for a while. And I don't know why.
I think this is a really good team. It's very versatile. It has a lot of guys that can do a lot of things. The only real issues with it is that Sarah is the flying resist, and well, it's not super ice weak, but it does have Double Bird and Swampert in a meta where 2 Kyuroms are legal. 3, sorry.
That is true. I forgot that regular Kyurem was legal there for a second. Yeah, I mean, the only ice resist is Zamazenta, right?
Yes, Zamazenta is the only one.
Yeah, that's a pretty bad ice matchup.
It has enough raw bulk to skate by, but the 2 Kyurems are really going to give it trouble if they meet.
I mean, and then the fairy resist is Venusaur Moltres. If you're bringing both, that means you're dropping one of your other good Pokemon.
Those 2 are still pretty good. They're quite bringable.
They're good Pokemon. I think this team is like a team that has 8 Pokemon, and man, if you could bring those 8 Pokemon every game, it feels exceptional. But unfortunately, you can't always bring all of your Pokemon. Yveltal's just so good.
This is going to be a really annoying team to prep against.
This isn't a team which is amazing at getting into Yveltal. It's got Swampert, which is kind of good at it, but then you're bringing Swampert instead of one of the other Pokemon. It's the same thing is true with Moltres, and then like Zeraora is fast pivot. Does
Moltres get
teleport?
Compass too.
I don't think it does, right?
What?
Does Necrozma have teleport? I don't think it does.
I don't think so, but the floor just has baton pass.
That is so true, dude. I keep forgetting that baton pass is not like hard banned in draft. Yeah, I mean, I think this team is definitely okay at getting into Yveltal, not amazing at it, and I think that's where it sort of falls down a bit for me, as well as a few of those significant, I mean, this team does not want to play against the Skymen or the Rayquaza. It really doesn't like the fact that the team with the double flying type, both the flying types are electric neutral.
Yeah, pretty much. This is a team with a lot of big bodies, good recovery, good wish, extremely versatile. It can adapt to any matchup you give it, honestly,
I mean,
so...
It has a lot of Pokemon that really appreciate that wish support.
For sure.
Even Pokemon that themselves have good recovery, the Moltres and Mega Venusaur, love not having to click it. Honestly, this team feels like it would be disturbingly broken if a Alomomola was on it. So I'm glad that the person who took a Alomomola took it round 3.
Maybe, but then they would have to run Stealth Rock Necrozma all the time.
Over Florges?
Conquer this.
Oh no, I was thinking over Florges.
Oh, nah.
Yeah, or as like the Wish passer, because I feel like regen on this team would be absolutely dirty. But Florges is still a very good Pokemon at 11 points. The Crossbow is already like a really good rocker on this team, and Swampert. I don't know. I don't love bringing Swampert to games in UBERS, but it's definitely not terrible.
It can certainly work.
I just remember
it's
killing it with my electric types. My team that has 1 million electric types. Alright, on to number 2. Land are us. Now, this team may or may not have been the first ranked team, and then you asked me to move it down. What do you say to that accusation?
Yeah, we can say that. In hindsight, I will also put myself below Chandy. I think I have
don't
myself at
agree.
second or third.
You have actual like resists to types, and a Coco apparently. So you're the person who picked the overpriced Coco up.
Look, man, it was round 6, and Coco Moth fit a lot of what I wanted to do, so I just went for it. But look, other people here
And
got
Formosa.
other people.
Formosa.
What?
I also thought that it was a bit overpriced, despite being Pheromosa's largest fan for basically all of last gen.
Yeah, I think Formosa is maybe a little bit too high, but it synergizes super nicely with Mega Metagross, so I didn't really mind that.
Yeah, I mean Mega Metagross is a very good, very consistent Pokemon. I think Silvally actually is kind of really nice on this team. I feel like there are a lot of teams that use Silvally to make resists where they have none, but this team uses it to complement existing resists, by which I mean this is a good team. Silvally is better on a good team than it is on a bad team. I also really like the Slowbro on this team.
Yeah, Silvally definitely helps when you have clearly defined types it should be swapping into as well. For example, Coco is a Frail Fairy, so you can back that up with Silvally. Silvally also works as just a plain normal type here as well.
Yeah. And Dark, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Iron Driggulus is a cool Pokemon, but not necessarily the best Dark type. Pretty good flying,
It's a cool Pokemon 70% of the time.
What was the thought process on Rotom Cut?
I wanted a water check, I wanted a ground check, I wanted momentum and removal.
Okay.
Wash was gone. I was really close to taking Rotom Fan instead, but
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
you really have to run normal or dark on Silvally a decent bit on this team. Like looking at the
Yes,
Ghost
cool
and Dark matchup.
Yes, and I'm cool with that. It's fine.
Yeah,
Normal especially, then I get an item slot.
I love normals. Sorry, I love item slots. Oh. No, I think this is a good team. Am I completely insane, or are there only 2 rockers?
Let's see. Metagross, Garchomp. That's kind of it, I think. Let me check my prep doc.
It's your team.
It's been
yeah, I mean, I
long
think this
since
team
I've
wouldn't
looked.
mind a tertiary rocker because Garchomp and Metagross both love running not rocks.
Yep, those are the only rock setters.
Metagross definitely has matchups where it only needs 3 moves.
I am quite a fan of bulky helmet chomp, so I don't really mind having to run that. But yeah, sometimes you really want to have the space instead. That's the one thing I really would have liked to fix, alongside maybe having a different dark and a different flying. But I don't spend too much time sitting here defending my choices because the other coaches in the div don't get to do
Don't
that.
bully Iron Jugglist, man. He's trying his best.
It's trying, 70% of the time.
You just run Acro. It's fine.
Seriously, I think 2 days before I drafted Jugglist, I fought someone in HBF, the Insurgents League, where someone's Jugglist missed 3 Hurricanes against me, and then I went and drafted Jugglist. I don't know what I was thinking.
I believe I made myself clear. You can just run booster attack Acro.
Is it even possible to get the booster on attack on it?
I know it isn't level 50. I don't know for sure at level 100. But normally it's easier at level 100 than 50.
Ah man, this has 80 base attack. That's not happening.
No, it's fine because I think it gets Dragon Dance. And at +1 with also a boost to its ability.
It doesn't get Dragon Dance.
It doesn't get Dragon Dance? I don't know. I remember something happening. To be honest, it would prefer not to have 80 base power. 80 It would prefer not to have 80 attack.
Yeah, it could have been an interesting mixed one, and it definitely would have preferred if you swapped the special attack with the physical attack, but oh well, I like the special mon here, if it works.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Iron Jugglist is better as a special mon, because I think that... I don't think it gets knockoff. It might now. I know knockoff was like a TM or TR or something in the DLC.
It gets knockoff.
Okay, that's a good buff. I used it ages ago. I thought it was cool. I also had it on a Coco team. I don't remember its ability ever coming in relevant, but that's mostly due to positioning. Either way, I do think that, yeah, looking at this more, I feel like Savali does have to run Dark more than you would like. I feel like this team does need, like, 2 Darks in some matchups. But if you think about it, Taurus is a Pokemon that they've never really power crept, so... Rank 1. The Sioux Stampede of Divinia. I forgot one of the I's. Well, how did I do that? I apologize. I'm a bad YouTuber, I'm sorry. More than that, I'm a bad friend.
Agreed.
Speaking of teams that like don't like switching into Dragon.
Yeah, Dragon and Fairy are pretty much the only weaknesses I can leverage against this team.
I remember not necessarily myself being a huge fan of this team. I mean, it's also like not a team that like loves ground matchups, right? Lugia is cool, but it's a Lugia. Meowscarada is not like a great ground resist.
Lugia and Rotom is fine, and Meowscarada also helps the third choice ones, I guess. It's not a switch-in. Yeah. But it's functional enough.
I think I've just been playing too many leagues that haven't had as many points, because I feel like I've not seen Lugia on like a non-Lugia centric team in a while, man. This team is like the Melodic being a Suicune away from being like an insane pressure stall team.
Oh god, thank god we didn't get that. But I do think the Melodic fits better here, because this team really appreciates the slow pivoting.
Oh yeah, no, Melodic is good on this team. But this team does have top 3 pressure Pokemon.
Oh yeah, I forgot that's the Donatos ability. Well, Lugia doesn't ever run that.
Well, I think if you had like 2 other pressure mons, you would consider it, but like if you were running like 5 pressure Pokemon, then you would consider running it as the 5th one. But otherwise, yeah, multi-scale is kind of a good ability. Some have suggested. Now, Terrapagos disagrees. It actually thinks that multi-scale's a little bitch, but you know, happens.
We can't all be so privileged.
Is this the only Magic Bounce in the entire league?
I think so.
I feel like Magic Bounce used to be such like a core part of UBERS experiences, but like I don't think Espeon got picked up. I'm pretty sure Hatterene did not get picked up. I don't think we didn't see Mega Absol, we didn't see Mega Sableye. Does anyone remember when Mega Sableye used to be good in UBERS? Me neither.
No. Magic Bounce is handy, but ultimately in singles it hasn't really mattered in a couple gens now. But this team right here, It's just good. I don't know how I feel about the bottom three, but they're also cheap that I can't really complain at the top.
Yeah, I actually like
7 is
Pangoro on this team. You've mentioned a few times that slow pivots are good. That is a Pangoro.
Yes, but I'm thinking about the psychic resists on this team, and I don't really like how the dark type gets blown up by every single fairy coverage move.
They have a
Like, even more
Dialga.
so than most dark types.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Meowscarada took similar damage. I don't know. I've definitely used a Pangoro and had a Pangoro live a like random Dazzling Gleam. That said, I haven't had it live a random Dazzling Gleam from like I don't even know what Psychic Ubers get Dazzling Gleam because like Mewtwo doesn't, Lugia doesn't. What other Psychic Ubers are there? Deoxys doesn't. Oh my
There's a
god!
lot of in-betweens, not necessarily Ubers, that still get it. It's not a huge complaint. Really, the only real issue I have with this team is that it's not even a big issue. It's that Rotom Heat does so much for this team, and you're kind of in hot water once that thing goes down.
My thought with this team is it doesn't really have like a great Scarf option. It's like Dialga, Meow, Rotom. None of them are like
Yeah,
them.
pretty much. And even the Rotom would need removal, which this team doesn't have a ton of.
But it has bounce. I mean, it's
You're
just
not
a good
really-
thing that there are no Ubers that other people have. I mean, it's a good thing they drafted Dialga, so no one else will have like a Dialga with rocks. Surely.
I don't know if this is a VGC thing, but you're never switching a Mega DNC into hazards so you can bounce them.
I mean, hazards aren't really a thing. No, that was definitely a thing that you used to do in Gen 7.
Yeah, with something bad like an Espeon, so you can
No,
afford
you
to risk
definitely
it,
did
not a
that
Mega
with Mega
Diancie.
Dude, people used to say that Mega Diancie should get banned because it could switch in on people getting hazards and then get both a KO and hazards for its people. I remember, and then I was like, that's dumb, because then you're risking your really good Pokemon. But people definitely like consistently did that because there are so many Pokemon that were hazard setters that Mega Diancie just like lived Earthquake from. Now they
Your
made
war
more
flashbacks
good
will
and
not
better
truly leave
Pokemon,
you.
but like Mega Diancie was definitely a Pokemon that had a history of switching into opponents clicking hazards.
Yeah, on the ladder, not in draft. Where
No,
you can
in
prep for
draft
it,
specifically. Again, people
Really?
wanted it banned from draft. Because of
I'm
that.
moving on from that. I don't know what to say to that.
I remember WPF voted on banning Mega Diancie. I voted against banning Mega Diancie because I did not think it was broken. I thought that it was perfectly balanced, and I know I definitely had games where I switched in on hazards and bounced the hazards, including in Ubers in WPF.
Okay, let's get ourselves back on topic and back to 2024.
I still don't think it's bad. I think you might just be wrong. Like, you definitely still... Like, I mean, I used Mega Diancie on my Ho-Oh team recently, and I definitely switched it into hazards. I found the main problem I had with Mega Diancie was trying to get its Mega up. But once I had its Mega up, I didn't have problems switching it in. It's just, it's not as nice to try and switch it into their ground type when you are regular Diancie, and don't get rewarded for it. I think this team is generally just pretty consistent. I think it's annoying to prep against. I think Esnatus is either the best or second best legal Pokemon. My top three would be the Yveltal and Esnatus. I don't know which of them is like I would probably ban both if I was tiering this sort of level, if that's how good I think they are. And then the next one is Calyrex Ice, which is the best Pokemon that I think should be consistently legal in a non-Arceus format. So
Yeah, that's
this team having one of the
definitely
best,
top.
and then having good team around it is nice.
Yeah, I don't know what to say here. It's just a good team. Aside from the fairy thing and kind of dragon, I don't know what you do about this.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the Dragon is maybe a little worse than Fairy, but a lot of Fairies get Power Gem now, so maybe Rotom isn't as good into them, because a lot of them used to have Surf, and now they're getting Power Gem.
Not that many still. It's still not really consistent.
Yeah, it's just that I think now, like, compared to previously, there are less Pokemon that Rotom Heat used to, like, I like Rotom Heat less than I used to, because Rotom Heat used to just hard wall a ridiculously obnoxious amount of things, but, like, you can't switch Rotom Heat into Fluttermate, so not in Sun, and you used to be able to do nonsense like that, and, you know, maybe you shouldn't have been able to switch it into everything, but You did used to be able to.
Yeah, regardless, whatever shape it has now, it's still a wonderful pick for this team.
Yes.
The removal, the ground check, the pivoting all works really well with these guys.
Yeah, it's good. I also think... I think this team really, really appreciates having two good offensive spikers. I think Ednatus and Lugia both really appreciate having the option for Meowscarada and Diancie. Like, I think that Meowscarada and Diancie are both really good picks on this team.
Definitely, yeah.
And
the Meowscarada was a snipe for me, but I can't be too mad when they put it to this good use.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, sniping Meowscarada, immediate rank first pick, so next to UBERS season. Remember to take it round 1, guys. Thank you guys all for watching. It does look like it will be an incredibly fun season. I appreciate Etesian for coming on. I'm gonna go to bed. Goodbye.
I'm gonna go not to bed. Goodbye.